Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hardcore Fab channel. On today's video, we are going to kind of step out of the norm for most of our videos here. We are going to be back to doing some fab work in today's video, so if you want to see some fab work, you're good to go there, but we're not working on cars today. Now, when we go out and about and we, see people at shows or whatever, or just in general conversation, everyone always asks, is that all you do is just build cars? And I would love to say that yes, that's all we do, and that's everything that we do in the shop here is just badass rat rods and hot rods and things like that. But it's not the case, unfortunately. So reality is that we end up getting stuck doing a lot of other things that isn't as fun and as exciting or whatever like that. And I thought today I might share one of those things with you guys. Doesn't mean it's not a cool project. It just means that it's not, a blown 6-liter hanging out the top of a, badass rat rod. This is a reality check in case anyone was thinking that all I got to do is just build, cool stuff all the time. I've got a million more cool ideas up here that I want to do, but we've got to figure out a way to fund all of those million different ideas, and this is one of those ways that we fund them. All right, so what other kind of projects do we work on here in the shop? Well, it's really a big mixture of a bunch of different things. So we have a lot of agricultural stuff here in our area, in the middle of Kansas, of course. So we do get stuck doing some of that, although I've tried to kind of steer away from that as much as possible. But we do a little bit of that. We also do some, paint and body work here and there a little bit. I've also tried to steer away from that as much as possible, but it is something that we still end up doing on occasion. And I got an example of that right here. We've got a bed off of an old Ford pickup. The pickup itself has got sentimental value to the owner, so that's cool and I respect that. And they're just wanting to kind of keep it stock and original so that they can maintain that original sentimental value. So there's a lot to be said for that, but is that interesting for you guys to watch on YouTube? No, not necessarily. And the stuff that I'm doing to it is rust repair and just general paint and body work. So there's a million videos out there already like that, and I don't need to cover that. And I kind of feel like it's, already overdone. So whatever, we're not dealing with that. And one of the other big things that we do, since we do have the big CNC plasma table here, is a lot of signage. So we've got several different signing companies that we do stuff for, and then we also do stuff for individuals and things like that. You guys have seen like the C10 that I have hanging on my wall back there in the back. That was actually something that started out as a project for someone else, and then I wanted one for myself, so I made one for myself. You guys have also seen like my Hardcore Fab sign up here. I've done multiple signs like that, different styles and different versions of that. That is kind of what we're going to be working on today. So this one is a freestanding sign. This is a pretty large sign. We're talking something that's almost 80 inches tall and almost 8 foot wide. So pretty good size sign. It's also going to have cutouts like that, but it's going to get some colored plexi behind the cutouts so that it can be backlit and have the letters shining through. This works pretty good in here. It's just got the cutout and then some rope light in there. But if you had that outside in the sun, that wouldn't cut it. You wouldn't get enough light shining through there to actually really be able to see much. So this gets plexi, and it's going to get LED lighting in behind it to shine through the plexi. So this is our sign we're going to make today. This is for a local company here in Hutch, as you can see. And to put this in perspective for you, this size right here, that square basically on the top part of that sign is 4x8. These pieces here on the side are going to be square tubing, and that's what this big piece of square tubing here on the floor is. So we'll end up cutting that up to make our legs. And then there'll be another piece down here, also 8 foot wide. I can't remember, about 12 inches or 13, something like that, inches wide there. And that's going to get backlit also. So to backlight this, we're going to have to take and encase it and kind of make it into a cube. So we're going to use the square tubing as our thickness of the sign. That's 4-inch. And then it'll be obviously as big as the sheet of material that we're using. So that should give us, that 4 inches should give us plenty of room to put some LED lights in there and stuff and be able to get some pretty good lighting through the sign. So the first step of this is to draw the sign up. Let me see here. We're actually on sign 6 of this. That's my 6th rendition of this sign. And I got that to the point where they liked the look of all of that. And then I had to make it to where the letters would actually cut out and not lose all the little pieces and parts of the letters. So kind of had to make it look kind of like a stencil where you have little pieces that connect the center of like O's and D's and letters like that. So letters are actually some of the worst stuff to plasma cut out if you don't know. This is a total pain in the rear because this takes a lot of time. So between designing that and then actually going in here and making that to where that'll cut, I probably have somewhere in the 4-hour neighborhood, and dealing with the customer as well. So I'm probably already 4 hours into this deal before we actually even get the chance to start doing anything in metal. So like I said, pretty time consuming, but we're past all that now. So now we can actually do the part that you guys want to see, and that's the fab work side of things. So I've broken this here up, into pieces in my head that we'll be able to put together. So the first piece is going to be the top part of that sign with the main lettering and stuff in it. So like I said, we're going to do a 4x8, pretty close to 4x8. I think it's only like 30 inches by 8 foot wide at the top. And I've already got a piece of material here on the plasma table for that. That's already a 4x8 sheet. So we can bring the computer over now, we can set everything into a G code, and then we can go ahead and get cutting on that particular part, and that'll be our first piece that we'll be making for the sign. Okay, I got everything all set up here. We're ready to actually start cutting. I'm going to go over a couple of things real quick here. I'll just cover it while we're doing this. I'll go to time lapse, and I'll do a voiceover while we're doing time lapse of a bunch of the questions that I always get asked anytime anybody sees me using the plasma table in video. Hopefully this will answer any questions anybody's got. So yeah, I guess we're ready to start cutting. I am using a piece of 11 gauge out here, hot rolled. It is gonna take up the majority of this sheet. Yeah, well, it's about 40 inches, a little over 40 inches wide and pretty close to 8 foot long. We talked about that already. So it will take quite a while to cut. Just for reference, this is right now 12:05 is what it is right now. So I'll be able to tell you what time it is when we get done to give you guys kind of an idea of how long this time lapse is going on for while we're cutting this. And like I said, these letters take quite a little bit of time. So let's get after it. All right, one more time. I didn't have air actually hooked to the plasma cutter, so that didn't work. Try again. So the first thing here, this is a Torchmate plasma table, and I do have a Hypertherm 1250 plasma cutter attached to it. And we are cutting this 1/8 inch with a 40 amp tip inside the machine head torch here. I do have several programs that I do some CAD drawing in, but the one I usually typically use the most is the Torchmate CAD that actually comes with the machine. So with the current setup that we have right here, about the thickest that I can cut is right around the 1/2 inch 9/16 is kind of where I like to call it quits. Any more than that and it becomes so slow that it's very, 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 very time consuming to be able to cut it. I bought this machine close to 15 years ago, and it was actually used when I bought it, fairly new when I bought it, but still a used machine. And we've had very good luck with it. I'm extremely happy with it. We have updated the servo motors on it that actually drive the gantry up and down the entire length of the table. Short of that, we have had very, very little maintenance stuff to do with it. We've upgraded some computer stuff over the years, of course, to get better computers to be able to work with today's internet. You'll notice that this table does not have a water bath table underneath it, and I have good reason for that. I went back and forth a couple of times deciding whether or not we was going to build one for this, and I end up choosing not to. We'll talk more about that here in just a little bit. The other option that I did consider for the smoke side of things is to put a hood over the top and turn on a fan and vent it out the wall or the ceiling or something along that lines. I have also chosen not to do that because most of the time I'll just open up the doors and let the fumes out, and it's really not that big of a deal. Really the only time that becomes an issue is if there's like extremely cold temperatures outside, and luckily for me we've had some global warming supposedly happening, so temperatures in the winter hasn't been all that bad here lately the last few years, so it's really not a problem. Sweet, we are done, and that went pretty flawlessly for the most part. A couple little things there, but we're pretty good. And our time now is 12:52. We go ahead and let this thing cool off for a little bit, and there's a swap meet in town that's setting up right now. We're going to go up there and meet up with some people up there real quick, and then we'll come back here after a bit and keep working on this thing.
Thursdays, man.
Yep. Alright, so Connor helped me throw this thing over here since we got done cutting it, and remember when I was talking a little bit ago about how the plasma table doesn't have that big water tank underneath there? Well, this is the reason why. So I screwed up on this P right here. The P didn't keep the hole. That hole is supposed to go right there on that P, and then there's supposed to be a couple pieces to connect it. And I screwed up and I did not get the little things in there to connect that. So luckily, I know a guy in a place that can probably work some metal and patch that back in, and no one will know the difference. So not too big of a deal there. But if we had that water tank underneath the plasma table over there, I would have had to go fishing for who knows how long until I found that P. And as it was now, just walked over there and found it right on the floor, just right below where the P was cut. It was laying right there, so it wasn't too big of a deal. So once we get that stuck back on there, the next step here is to go ahead and clean all this stuff up. Speaking of the P, I brought the P with me since it was there. You can kind of see the stuff on the back side of that needs cleaned up. This whole entire sheet is covered with a little bit of stuff like that. I can get it to where it'll cut really good, but I don't have a computer controlled Z-axis, the one that goes up and down. Mine's just set. So what ends up happening is, as the sheet gets a little bit of temperature in it, it starts warping and changing height, and then it ends up not cutting as clean in some spots, and then other spots it's fine. And so inevitably, when you got something as big as this to cut, there's always going to be a bunch of stuff to clean up. So like I said, that's where we're at now. Best way I found to do that, just take an old chisel, get a good edge on it, and you can just run it along there and chip like 95% of this off. So I guess I'll flash you back here in like an hour, because yeah, that's probably going to take an hour to clean this all up. Next up, I got to get the legs cut. Connor already went home. Could use him still. Oh, now I need a tape measure. So check this out. This is the drop off of that sign right there. It's the E for their enterprise. It's kind of their logo. I think I'm going to start saving a bunch more of this kind of stuff and just paint it up or whatever and put it over there in the new shop. We've got so much wall space over there, I can actually do that now. So that's going to be kind of fun. Got a bunch of letters and stuff here too that actually say Hutchinson, which is my town. So there's that, area code, and a bunch of other random letters and stuff sitting here too. So I don't know what I'll do with that or when I'll do anything with it, and it may or may not be in a video in the future, but at least you can look for it hanging on the wall in the future over at the new shop. So get this stuff cleaned up out of here, get this kind of set up in place here where we can start putting everything together, and we'll be on to the next step. Well, it's the next day, and some hoodie weather moved in, so here I am. But I've got the legs kind of sitting here in place where they need to go. I've already done all my measurements. I've already checked everything to see if everything is square and everything is good there. So we're looking really good now to go ahead and move forward to our next step. I've got a couple of big beefy tacks on each side here, so now I need to come up with something that's going to go across this to tie everything together. So that's where this old metal here is going to come into play. We're going to have to clean up a little bit of the stuff on there and clean it up and make it look a little nicer. None of that's going to be seen, so it's not going to be a big deal to be able to use some used material in that part. Plus everything's going to get coated anyway, so after that's all cleaned up, we'll be good to go. Well, our used material is all cut down to size now, and Connor took and cleaned it all up with flap wheel, so it looks a lot better too. There's not really any rust or anything left on it. We did leave one tab right here in the center that was sticking off of there on the side there. I'll go ahead and clean that up a little bit more and smooth that out a little bit, but we left that so that we would be able to take the piece that goes onto the back side of this and caps everything off. We can sit it in place right there while we go ahead and put some nuts in or bolts in to actually hold the back on. So before we can do any of that though, we need to cap the top of it. So to cap the top, this is the drop that was left on the sheet there from when we cut out the main part of the sign here. It still had that little piece left there at the top. So it ended up being just about the right size where we had just a little bit of trimming to do to be able to put that up here for a top cap. It's going to hang over, it's going to have a lip all the way around the whole top of it. That lip is going to keep any rain from going down inside the tubes, of course, but it's hopefully going to also keep any rain or moisture from going down in between the outside of the panel and get trapped in here on the inside where we're going to have our lights and everything in there. So hopefully it minimizes as much of that as possible. So now I guess we're at the point now, since Connor's already got this to cut the size, already rounded the corners all over, we can just go ahead and measure this out and get this tacked into place. So I've got an extra piece of box tubing there, and I've used that to kind of support this while we were fitting this sheet and get it to the right size. I'm going to use it now to be able to hold this in place while we tack it and make sure that we get everything kind of in the right position where it needs to go. What I'm trying to do here is just put a clamp on here, and hopefully I can make it to where the clamp will sit on the square tubing and then hold this whole piece on. Seems like it should work in my head anyways. See if it happens in real life that way. So now I'm going to just kind of eyeball it here and get it close, and then we can measure from top to bottom there where we need to be, and we'll be able to tack this on. So I can take the old calipers and I can get a measurement here from where we're at from the square tubing to the outside edge of our top plate, and I can do that on both sides. I can take the difference between those two measurements, cut it in half, and add or subtract it to either side to be able to make this thing perfectly in the center. Okay, so I've split the difference now on my calipers, so I know what my measurement needs to be now. I'm going to actually just lift this up a little bit. Make it too high. Then I can run over here and I can just tap it down until I get to the right height. Still got my depth set right here, so I can just tap it right down until it gets into place too. That looks pretty good. Witness mark's still lined up, so we're good there. So now I can go ahead and get some of the slack out of here, push this thing tight and give it a tack. See where we end up. Just little tacks at this point because I don't know 100% for sure that we're there yet, but I think we should be. But until I get this all moved out of the way, we can kind of double check everything. I don't want to lock anything in too tight. Yes, that'll push in and look pretty good. So we double check all my measurements here, make sure everything seems to be the same. Look good there. Good enough. Go ahead and tack it into place, and then, no, I think I'll let Connor weld it up. Nice, we're getting there now. We're on the home stretch. So you guys seen the process that we did up here on the top? We just repeated that again down here off screen, and it was the same process, and all we're doing down there is we're adding the company logo that they wanted down there, the company slogan. Logo's up here. So the company slogan is down there, and they wanted that to be part of their sign as well. Now you can kind of see what we've got going on here to create a box to be able to backlight this stuff. So we've got our 3 sides right now. We need one more piece here to be able to sheet the back. So to sheet the back, we're probably going to use some lighter gauge material. It doesn't have to be nearly as strong. It's not going to be structural at this point. And I'll probably just go ahead and pull down some 18 gauge for the back of it. I'll get that cut into place, and then you guys are going to check out how I'm going to mount that, because I got a really cool way to do that. So let me get that cut real quick, and I'll show you this cool way to mount it. So metal is cut to fit now. I've got some lines laid out here, and I've got some stuff marked off here to where I need to drill some holes. So we need to attach this sheet metal to the rest of the sign, but we need to be removable. So the easiest way to do that is to bolt it on. Well, there's a couple of different ways to bolt it on. You could drill holes and you could weld nuts to the back side of it, or you can use one of these tools. And this is where I'm gonna look like a dipshit, because I agreed to do a review on this tool, and I don't know how to say their name. They're obviously not an American company, of course, because I don't know how to say that, and I'm just a old white dude from Kansas, you know, that builds stuff. So there's a reason why I'm not at some, you know, college somewhere teaching foreign language. So yeah, anyways, don't know anything about how to say that, but I do know about tools. And I did agree to do a review on this and check it out and see what I thought, because I do have one already, something I've already had. And I've had this one here for quite a while, and I've used it on occasion, but I don't really like it. This one is kind of crappy. So I'll show you how these tools work here in just a second, but the problem with this one is that this one is just kind of like a hand squeeze type deal, so you only get as much force as what you've got for grip to be able to set these in. So let me actually open this other one up. You'll see the difference between the two tools, and I'll show you how it works. Now, before I did agree to do a review on this tool, I did go on Amazon, I looked them up, and there's a bunch of people that have bought them that did have good positive reviews. So I thought, well, it must be a fairly decent tool if everybody's giving positive reviews. So at that point, I thought, well, we'll go ahead and give it a shot, and we'll see how well it works. So let's see, we got, these are all the nuts that actually get put into different things. There's a bunch of different sizes here. Let me move these out of the way. Right off the bat, that would be a complaint of mine, is that they don't have a location in this box for these to go. They're just kind of thrown in here on top. So, don't really like that too much. But, once we get to the tool, this does seem like a pretty good tool. So, the quality of the build and everything seems pretty decent on it. I mean, it's not snap-on, it's not, you know, polished chrome or whatever, but it doesn't seem like it's going to just instantly fail. And it does feel like I'm going to be able to get some good power in there to actually make this thing compress a nut. So let me show you how this thing is actually supposed to work here. I don't know what size is preloaded in here, but must be an M8 because it's about what size I was guessing. That one is in there, this one's empty, so probably got an M8 in it. Let me find an M8 nut. Alright, so this is what it looks like. That's our actual rivet nut that we're going to set into something. And it's got kind of a little knurling thing on the outside there. The inside is threaded, so that it will thread onto our tool. Now, you're supposed to have these open when you thread that on. This isn't the first time I've used one of these. I've actually borrowed a buddy of mine's and put quite a few of these in instead of going to get my own. I don't know why I never have, but always say I'm going to, and then last minute when I realize that I need one, I'm like, shit, I need to borrow one. Anyways, so you can kind of see there when you close these up, see how much gap there is there? So when you close these up, then it pulls that against this right through here, and it's kind of an anvil in there that it's pulling against. So if you raise it up, you open it up like you're supposed to, you thread this all the way down on top of there. Now when it pulls it in, it's going to be pulling on those threads, and it's going to pull the top of it down and compress it. And if this was stuck into a piece of sheet metal, then it would compress it around that hole and it would hold it tight. I suppose I'll just grab another little piece here real quick that I can do a demo for you real fast, and then we'll get to doing it actually on the sign. Okay, I have enlisted my lovely assistant. So we've got a hole in our sheet metal, and you're gonna hold that.
Okay.
And take our, I just drilled it.
Oh, okay.
So we've got our nut screwed down here tight. We got our all the way open here on our tool. So you just insert it into the hole and then just squeeze.
Oh, neat.
And you can squeeze it a couple of times and just kind of make sure that it's good there. And then this just unthreads.
This is really cool. That's beautiful.
And now we have a nut that is permanently attached to this piece of sheet
Nice
metal
and
that we can
smooth.
bolt something to it.
On this side and a bolt on that side, but it does stick out.
Well, that's on the back side though.
Oh, okay.
So we'll put these in like this. I'll explain that to Julie, and since you guys probably too now, that goes in here just like that inside of our piece of square tubing, so that our next piece of sheet metal that we're putting on the back of the sign,
Back of
this
this.
big piece here,
Oh, okay.
will sit over the top of that. We drill a hole in it, and then we'll be able to put a bolt through it. And that'll bolt the back of the sign onto the sign.
I get it now. That's pretty handy. I like it.
Yep. So let me clean this mess up. I'll find some drills and get some holes stuck down here, and we'll start putting this thing together. All right, so I got my holes all laid out on our sheet metal. I'm going to go ahead and start out with drilling holes through the sheet metal and through our square tubing that we're mounting to. I'm just going to start off with a small bit. It's like a 1/8 inch or whatever. Get our pilot hole started for a bigger hole to go through for our nut cert, but then this also locates exactly where the hole is going to be at for the sheet metal part as well, so I don't have to go back and try to measure out a bunch of stuff again and make sure everything lines up. This will make sure that everything lines up great. So I decided I'm going to use 1/4-20 for the bolts to actually go in here. I don't want to use the metric 8mm. That's bigger than I need, and I don't like buying metric bolts because they're kind of expensive. So we got to switch out the stuff here in the end of this to be able to accommodate the 1/4-20. And I haven't done this before, so bear with me here, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal. There's a tool. So the piece in the end there should just screw out. This collar just kind of comes off, I believe, and then this should thread out of there. Yep, that wasn't too bad. So do have a bunch of different options here for different stuff like we talked about, and each one of them come with their own little carrying case thing, so that's kind of nice. Let's keep everything all organized that way. Okay, so now that I know for sure exactly how it works here, I'll cover it a little better for you guys. I don't think it matters if they're open or closed. There is kind of this little slip down collar thing right here, so you slip that down, and then that allows you to thread this in, and then that collar just kind of comes back up, and that collar's kind of got some teeth in there, so you don't really have to tighten that particular part down with any tool. That collar holds it. And then we've got that outside piece there that just kind of threads on, should thread on, there we go. Hand tight should be good on that, I believe, too. And then we've got the little anvil part that it pulls against. Now hopefully we should be good for 1/4-20. The thread's on, so I think we got the right one. We're all set up there. Let me move this out of the way and give her a shot. Alright, so again, before you can actually pull on this thing, you have to open it all the way up and then thread the nut on as far as it'll go. Drop her straight down into the hole. There's our nut cert installed. Let me grab a nut or a bolt here, and there's our 1/4-20 bolt. Threads right in it. Let's do these other two. We'll pull the sheet back over, we'll put the bolts in, make sure everything lines up good, and then we'll drill the rest. These are steel too, by the way. The ones that I have in my other little toolkit over there with the little hand jobby, that has aluminum ones in it, and it even has a hard time with those. I know it won't do these steel ones. I've tried. Well, that worked out good. We've got this side ready to go, really, pretty much. So we need to go around the rest of the square here and get those all done the same way. And then we'll be ready to make one for the bottom. And I guess we need some feet still. So we'll go ahead and get back to work. All right, so it's been a couple days, and I've got the backs on there now, and all of the rest of the nut certs are in. there are only 10 of the quarter 20s anyways. I don't know about the other sizes, I didn't count them, but there was only 10 of the little rivet nuts that are in the kit with the tool. So this has more than 10 bolts in it to hold these panels on, so I had to order some more of them, and I ordered a package of 10, no, package of 100, sorry, and I want to say it was like 11, 12 bucks, somewhere in that neighborhood. So not too bad a price really, and I'll go ahead and leave you guys a link to these, and I'll also give you guys a link to the tool in the description below the video so you guys can go find it. I will say too also that if you are thinking about getting one of these tools, don't buy the tool like the one that I had previously that's just like the hand grippy thing. Even when it only comes with the aluminum ones and not the steel nuts, that doesn't hardly work very good when you get a very good size one in there at all. So stay away from that. And the tool that they sent me is actually, I think 16 inches long is what it measures. And I believe there's like one in between those two, you know, in between the hand one and in between the 16 that's like a 10 or something like that. If you're going to buy one, go ahead and just step up and spend a little bit more money. I think right off the bat, you'll be happier because the one that they sent me works great. It you know, no problem to squeeze the nuts in. Of course, I was only doing the quarter 20. We weren't doing the big ones. There's some on there that go pretty good size, but I don't think that, you know, you'd want to go smaller. I think I would stick with that size and go from there. So that's my opinion, but tool works great. And like I said, I'll leave you a link to that in the description below. So with that said, let's check out the other side of this thing. And just like that, we got everything finished up now, at least on my end of this deal here. So this is as much as I'm going to be doing. I did try to go ahead and throw a light up here so you guys can kind of get a visual of what it kind of looks like with some light shining through, but it didn't really work as the way I planned, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the light back on, I guess. So the customer is going to take the sign from here and give it a coat of paint or powder or whatever it is that they're going to do, and then it's going to get some blue plexi coming in from the back that's going to be urethaned in, and then LED lights inside there. So that's going to kind of give you an idea. I think the outside is going to be white, so it kind of gives you an idea of what this thing's going to look like when it's all said and done. The bottom gets the same treatment with the same lights and everything behind the letters, so all of that should shine out and look pretty good when it's all said and done. So it's really a pretty neat sign, and it's huge. It's a big sign, so, well, you guys can see. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed a little bit of a different kind of fab video here, if you will. And like I said, this is kind of some of the stuff that we're doing in the sidelines that takes up time, but it pays the bills and it allows us to be able to do the other builds that we're doing here on the channel. So I'm excited because, like I said here in the last video, we do have a build coming up that we're going to be able to share with you guys here on the channel. I know it's been a while since we've had a build, and I'm as frustrated with all that as you guys are, like I said earlier. So I'm excited for that to happen here pretty quick, and I guess stay tuned for that. And also we've got some really fun stuff coming up here in the next couple weeks or whatever, so keep an eye out for those videos that are coming up too. So I guess with that, that's all I got for you guys on today's video, and I'll see you guys later.